Go.
Welcome back to Not a Great Whisper podcast. Again, your host, Katie Ray. I have an amazing guest today. Kevin, and your last name pronunciation.
Tydlaska-Dziedzic.
It's pretty awesome, but really hard to get used to saying all of it. So don't mind me. He is one of the greatest people I've ever met, but his last name's hard. Words are hard.
It is. Usually, people just say Kevin.
I know, but it's fun because he is a guest today. He is a host for his own podcast as well as an amazing human being. But he's going to go over a little bit about that today, of what he's doing, projects he is in, just how he's come about to where he is today. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here for sure.
I know. And I love that you're on the other end of the
I know it feels weird.
Of the podcast today.
Yeah,
I know. You are being interviewed. You'll probably take over a couple of times.
Probably.
You'll probably control it.
Forewarning.
It's fine. Totally okay with it. Totally okay. Also, thank you for pronouncing your last name.
Of course, of course.
So, how does it feel right now to be interviewed? I feel like you take a lot of control over situations. So, do you feel a little vulnerable?
Not necessarily. I like to speak my truth as well. So, I think that it's not as weird, but still a little bit weird too, because I'm like, oh, hey, everybody, welcome to. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it's not mine.
I love how soft yet not soft you speak. I feel like I'm really loud, but you just always get your message across. Even in the
thank you. I can be real fucking loud. But
I don't doubt.
Yeah, I try to not.
So
much.
I met Kevin. He did my headshots.
I did.
It was one of the funnest times I've ever had. I didn't even realize I was doing headshots by the end. I was just laughing and having a great time. Look at that for BKN Creative Headshots. But I already fell in love with you when I first met you. And then ditto. So much love. And then I just got a little bit of your childhood, some of your story with Brandon, your husband. And I became intrigued. And I just felt like you have so many layers that benefits so many different groups of people, and kind of want to dig into that today.
Oh, I love that.
I do. I love all your layers. I love peeling back the onion.
I'm like, yeah, I was going to say, I'm like an onion. I'm super, super stinky, but I have so many layers.
Oh my gosh. Kidding. He's not. He doesn't smell today. He doesn't smell.
Thank you.
I don't know about yesterday, but today smells great.
I tried today.
So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit about what you're working on now, and then kind of go into your childhood and how you got here, really.
Oh God, my childhood. Okay, so what I'm doing right now. Right now, currently, I have my main business called BKN Creative, which is a creative marketing agency, a full service creative marketing agency that's here in Tampa. And I do a lot. Even with that, I have kind of some different aspects of that business as well, because we have obviously these headshot days that we do. With the very popular Marissa Moran, which I believe you had on the podcast as well. Did. And so her and I have teamed up and do these cool headshot days for all these professionals and then actors in the Tampa Bay community, which is like it's a high end, kind of look. And so we've really branded ourselves as that. So we've that. And soon I'll be launching a business that my husband and I did in the past called Two Beards in a Boston. And that's actually a beard care and candle line that we are now introducing apparel into, which is exciting as well.
And the Boston's your dog.
The Boston is our dog. Yeah, a lot of people actually ask about that. So maybe we should rebrand it.
No. I love the logo.
But it's super cute. Yeah, so we're Two Beards in a Boston, and our Boston is our Boston Terrier, Marty, who I like to call Martina. Fajita Rita.
Okay. I didn't know all the names.
I totally do, yeah.
Hyphens?
Yes.
Like yours?
Yeah,
okay, great.
So, Brandon's always like, Marty, and I'm like, Martina Rita Fajita. She loves me. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of our main thing right now. I'm also a local actor, and am pursuing a performing arts career, not only segmented to theater, but into TV and film. So I do a lot of classes and have scored a couple of agents that are local to the Southeast region, and I'm starting to audition and, try to get back into that, because that's really what I've always wanted to do. Love what I do. Really want to do that too. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of the story behind what I'm doing right now.
Because you like to be a part of it all.
I guess. I don't know.
Why can't you? And you're young and you're running your own business.
Yeah.
What is some of your advice for people who are young and just starting out, and not young and old, whatever
Yeah,
age,
anybody,
but just starting out, right?
You can reinvent yourself at any age. The biggest piece of advice that I can give is to believe in you and don't let people who don't believe in you bring you down, right? So in the past, I've had a couple of, within other jobs where I was working towards where I'm at, I've had managers who really just beat me down, right? And I'm not sure what it is about them or even about me in that moment, but they really just didn't want to see me succeed. And I listened to them for a while. And so I think that the when I finally hit a moment where I was just like, yeah, fuck it. Fuck all of you. Great, you think that about me, but I'm going to continue, right? And I was able to be where I'm at now, right? Where I am my own boss. And I've started to really grow a business here that's becoming really successful. And so I think that like my biggest piece of advice is just always do you, always pursue what you want to pursue. And even though people are going to hate on that or try to steal or whatever, let them do them. And you just keep, persevering. And
keep on trucking.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest piece of advice, because there's so many elements in your life that can really drag you down. And I think that the universe purposely gives you those things so that you can persevere and to work through those and grow as a human being. And so work through them and grow and realize that the universe has introduced that to you for a reason.
What do you feel like some of your setbacks were as a child and growing up?
As a child?
As a child.
I think that one of the biggest setbacks what probably was the first setback that I probably ever went to was going into foster care. And I'm sure that there were setbacks before that, although I don't remember a ton of them, right? So I've been told some stuff that had happened when I was younger, and it includes a lot of abuse. Mm-hmm. And while I remember a few things, I don't remember the amount that I've been told happened, right? And so that was probably the initial setback. So I went to foster care sometime between the age of 4 to 6. I don't know exactly when I went, but I know that I was very young. And that was the initial one, right? And it was a setback developmentally, right? So I didn't grow up in a normal family. I didn't, there were years I didn't celebrate Christmas. There were years I didn't celebrate my birthday, right? Because I was jumping from foster home to foster home, and that system is very much about money. It's not necessarily about the well-being of a child. Yep. At least it was back then, totally, which was in the 90s. Way, right? Yeah, early 90s. So I think that, that was probably my initial setback. And as I grew up, once I landed at my final foster home, which was technically an all-boys orphanage, because I think I had 14 brothers at one point. It's a lot. And anyway, they structured it very much like a home, though, ish. Like we weren't allowed upstairs. Yeah. And like we had some really kind of weird limitations as well. And the foster dad, who has passed away, he did not like gay people. And I knew very young that I was a gay.
You were a gay.
I was gay.
I was the gay. Is basically what you wanted to say. I am
the one. Anyway, so they were a very, very faith-based home, which, didn't necessarily align with what I felt inside. And so that was actually a setback for me. I remember having a conversation with my adopted dad because my brothers and I, there was some situation where we played a game and like some clothes came off or something. I don't totally remember because, again, I was like 9. Yeah. But he pulled us all aside and was like, "You're like, this is disgusting being a," so there was a whole, kind of bash on the gay conversation. So that was a setback, right? And so there's been moments, I think, that, throughout that kind of whole process, when I got adopted, that was a step up, which became a setback, right? Because, so I was put up for adoption when my parents lost their rights. My biological dad gave them up, and then my biological mom lost hers. I have 2 biological sisters, and we were separated. So I went up for adoption. They did not. And so anyway, a family wanted me, changed their mind. So I went back to foster care. So that was a setback, right? And then when I got adopted, awesome. And then their family got torn apart, setback, right? And then when I was 18, I came out and some stuff went down with my adopted mom. I got kicked out, setback. the thing that I can say though is that every setback is an opportunity for you to grow and to learn, right? So even though it's not great, it's not a fun aspect and or setback, and certainly not something that I could control when I was 4 or 5, it's still something that you can take, learn from, and then decide to become who you're supposed to be based on that experience. And so even though you have all these setbacks, I remember it was after I got kicked out. I think it was 19 maybe. And I remember talking to somebody and I was like, oh, I just lied. And I was like, why did I just lie about that? And I physically was like, correct it right now. In my mind, right? Talking to myself. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just lied. And that was and I can remember the moment and being like, that's not how I want to be. And so I physically was like, okay, no more excuses. Nobody owes you anything. You don't owe anybody anything. And even though this is your story, you don't have to be what's expected of you, right? So people are like, oh my God, you had that childhood. Like, you're going to be a fucked up adult. And mind you, like, I got some issues for sure. But I decided to not be
the victim.
Correct. And I decided to live my life authentically and not have my past determine my future, right? And so I worked very hard to become that. So little moments, like a little, and I'm using lying because it's the easiest, type of thing that's coming to my mind right now. And it could be something like, think about it when someone's like, oh my God, I went to, London and Paris last year, which is probably a true statement. And I gave somebody, I don't know, a certain amount of money, like on the subway. And that you did not actually do, right? So it's like the littlest thing that's like, so you went to London, Paris. That's amazing. Why'd you add that little thing? It's really weird. I was doing that. And so I physically had to be like, oh, just kidding. That was a lie.
Oh my gosh.
To call myself out for it.
That's
right?
amazing.
To make myself change. And that was probably, those setbacks really built me to be that. And to like have it within my mind to be like, hey, you don't have to do that. You can change. And I'm thankful for that because I'm not sure that I would have had that courage or that strength to maybe be who I wanted to be if I had not been through some of that stuff.
I mean, I'm sorry you went through all of that, but at the same time, as I walked into your office studio the one day, I felt like family when I walked in.
Yeah.
So I feel like that experience of you not feeling like it was a family, more of like a structured school, crappy school or something, but you make sure everybody who's around you feels like family, like little things like that too. Yep. So the not lying, I hope everybody takes that and does the same
that
type
simple.
of.
Well, and think about the age that we live in, and I think that social
age,
media, absolutely. And I think that those little white lies really start to creep in for people. And it's unfortunate because it's that easy to stop doing it, you know? And I don't remember, it was a long time ago, and it may have been like a Wayne Dyer or Michelle Williamson, I think is what her name is. Like those inspirational types of speakers that maybe that I listened to in my early 20s that I was like, ooh, Yeah. But their message was, it is as simple as stopping if you let yourself stop, right? And that can be attributed to, I think, many things in your life. Obviously, there's stages, but you have that one moment when you're like, stop. And then you grow
Don't
from
make
there.
this a habit.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my, and I always, and it's funny that you're like, oh, I'm so sorry that you went through it. And I'm like, I'm not.
I know.
I'm
really sorry because as I hear it and as a mom,
yeah,
I kind of just want to hold you as a 4-year-old and be
like,
totally. You know what I mean? Yeah. For that moment, it just like, but I know that it's made you so much more of a human. Yeah. And beautiful and handsome. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. I'll take beautiful.
Gorgeous. But it also makes you ditto for me. Like the past just made me so much more loving towards humans and understanding. And I won't take shit from people that won't make that change. Like It's just like, okay, I gave you that chance. I know I could change. I know people can change, but I don't really want to take this shit.
Well, I think that, there's a level of understanding. And then there's a level of, I'm not thinking of the word right now, where you become a facilitator in somebody's bad decision, right? And that is like, that's a really fine line for me. So it's like, okay, yes, you can change. Gave you that chance. Okay, yeah, okay. And then it's like, nope, yeah. And I think that because I don't ever want to be what's the right word? Like to be assisting somebody in their bad decisions,
Enabling
right?
them.
Enabling.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't want to be the person that enables somebody to continually leading a bad life, right? So I have a really, really close friend who I won't name, but she is struggling with alcohol addiction, right? She's a girl I went to high school. She's a beautiful human being, and she is struggling. And I call her out. Call her out. She called me outrageously drunk, trying to pretend she wasn't. And I was like, do not call me when you are like this.
Yeah.
Get help.
They need that person, though.
They do. And I will always be that. I'm like, oh my goodness, no, fix it. And the same thing with her parents. Her parents are enablers and paying her bills and doing all this stuff. And I called them out too. And I'm like, you, at this point, you are enabling. Let it go. Stop helping. And, so I've always vowed to, like, I want to be that person. And I know who because I have been nasty before. I've said some bad stuff. I've treated people not great. We all have. And I want to learn from that and continue moving forward without that, right? With people who are worth having in my life too. So anyway, yeah.
I love that too. So have you ever felt you've gotten a client where you just don't want to work with and nicely you have to tell them?
Yeah. I'll give a prime example. I had a referral once for somebody that I was doing work for. And he's like, I have this great guy. He's looking for this, for some digital marketing, social media marketing. And I want you to meet him. And he's like, he definitely needs it. He knows he needs it. And it'd be great for you to whatever. So I'm like, great. So I set up a meeting with this guy. And, whenever I meet a new potential client, I want to talk about you first, right? Like, your business is great. Who are you as a human, right? Yep. And we really built BK Creative specifically, and really anything in my life we've built on passionate people who know why they're doing what they're doing, right? And that why is not based on a financial type of elevation in their life, right? So they're not like, I just want to make money, because that's not the right client for us. We really want to work with people who like love what they do, or are on the path to, join that passionate lifestyle. And anyway, so this guy, when I met with him, I asked him, I'm like, so what do you do what you do? And or why do you do what you do? And he said, I just want to make a lot of money. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I get it. Why else? I just want to make a lot of money. Okay. Is there any other reason? Nope. Just want to make a lot of money.
You asked it in 3 different ways.
And I'm like, all right, well, let's continue the conversation, right? So I said, well, this is what social media marketing looks like. This is what the digital marketing looks like compared to like traditional marketing, non-traditional marketing, whatever. And he was not finding any value in anything that I was saying. And he was like, well, sell it to me. And so I finally said, listen, this is not going to work for me. We really work with people who are passionate about what they do. And I'm sensing that you don't find value in marketing. And he said, yeah, I don't. And I said, I'm not the person to sell it to you. That's not how I do business. I only want you, I can tell you what you need to do, but you need to understand and also accept, and find value in what you need to do. And then that's a good working relationship. So this just isn't going to work. And I've never spoken to him again, which is totally okay. And that's one aspect of it as well. I think that you also, as you get older, you meet people that aren't your people. And the cool thing about being, alive and an adult is that you get to pick and choose who's in your life and who isn't. And you don't have to speak as to why. You owe nobody any kind of explanation. They're just not your people, right? And there's always going to be somebody that isn't your people, and you ain't going to be their cup of tea either. And it doesn't make them right or wrong. It just is what it is. And so anyway, so even with BK Creative, if we have clients that come in that just aren't, they're not going to be a good client for us, and we're not going to be good for them, we'll call it out. We're not like, oh my God, they can give us, thousands of dollars. No, it's just not.
You keep them professional and you say this just isn't a fit.
Correct. And that is okay. Right. And the same with us, right? If somebody starts working with us and we're like, man, we're just not, whatever. Okay, cool. Like, and so there's such power and honesty and transparency. And so I like to be upfront about that. And you're somebody that we talk to about that, right?
Yep.
And fortunately, like, we love you.
Yeah,
and we work really well together.
It's secret.
But there is, there's always going to be somebody who could be absolutely passionate about what they're doing and they just don't jive, right? And that, because I can be a lot, right? Like, I like to hug. I like to have wine with people. I like to say fuck. I like to, sometimes talk about a
All
funny
of my
sex
favorite
story,
things about
like
you.
whatever. And that really bleeds over into my business too, because I want this to be a safe space where people can walk in and feel like their authentic self with zero judgment and just feel beautiful about who they are.
That's what I was trying to explain when I first came in here. And, you always think like, I need that professional side, but you allowed me to be me and you fit it with professional and personal because I always want that.
Yeah.
Because I do want to bring the authentic side of everybody out. And you had that, like, we kind of had like our same vision of just like helping the world, changing lives.
Totally.
That's it.
Totally.
That's it. But I do love that about you. And I think that that's hard. Not everybody's learned that. Like,
Well,
you can say
you.
no to somebody because it's just not going to work for you in that moment.
Totally. Well, and I think that, you still have flaws, right? There's still moments where I'm like, fuck, I should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have just done that project.
And that, because you're always evolving and you're always learning. And you have to allow yourself to do that too. That's like last night my husband and I are on a workout,
kick.
whatever, workout kick and trying to get healthy. So
Lifestyle change.
Rolls. Yeah.
Lifestyle.
And last night we went to see Rent, which is one of my favorite shows, by the way. But anyway, it was super late and we needed to eat, but we had to get home. So we got fast food. And it was like, and I punished myself. I'm literally still punishing myself because I'm like, really? But it's okay, right? Allow yourself and then jump back on. That's like people that are like, I'll start next month on working out. No, girl, start now. And then if you fuck it up, start the next day.
How'd you know Brandon was the one?
Oh my God. That's a really great
Brandon is his husband, not just a boyfriend.
Brandon Tydlaska-Dziedzic. Yeah, we are legally married. Thank you, United States of America.
Shout out.
USA. Except now we're not doing great with LGBTQ rights.
Step back.
It's fine. We are still married though.
Yeah.
But so I met Brandon. Funny, actually, it's really funny. So I was with a guy. I was in a relationship for off and on from 17 to when I met Brandon, basically. And it was volatile. Like, it was not a good relationship. There was a lot of cheating and he wanted to be with women. He was confused about who he was. And it was just this codependent, addictive, just really unhealthy relationship. And so that is what I knew, right? And I knew that. And then I knew my my adopted family, who was not a good relationship either. And so I didn't have a really good basis for that. So anyway, when I met Brandon, I was at a really rough time of my life. My best friend had just died by suicide. And I had just ran away from my life in Colorado and went to New York City. And a mutual friend of ours, who I did the Disney college program with at Disney World here, was back in Connecticut, which is where Brandon had grown up. And he said, hey, you just moved to New York City. This guy that I grew up with and I really like is going to be in New York City. The funny backstory to that is Brandon actually went to college in Sarasota here in Florida. And when I was at Disney World with our mutual friend, Michael, Brandon came to see Michael and I was supposed to go hang out with him and meet him then and didn't, right? So when I, cut to New York, he had said, hey, that guy that you were supposed to meet, who I really like, is in Brooklyn and I'm going to come see you both. And so I said, that's totally cool. I know anybody that you're bringing. And he's like, no. And so I said, well, this guy Brandon's in New York City. Do you think it's weird if I reach out to him? And my friend Michael's like, no, he just came out. He's only out to a few people. His parents don't know, whatever. And I'm like, oh, fuck. But he's like, but he might, you could really help him. Cause I've been out since I was 17. So he's like, I think that you would be a great one for him to talk to. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'll add him on Facebook. Add him on Facebook. Looked at his pictures and I was like, okay, cool. And I contacted him and I was like, hey, I'm a mutual friend of Michael's. He's come to see us both. You want to hang out or whatever. And meanwhile, so my best friend had died and I stayed in Colorado for a few months, was not good, and picked up literally the universe was like, leave if you want to live. And I got rid of my apartment, sold my car, transferred my job, everything to New York City. 1 week, gone. My ex was living with me at the time. So even though we had separated, I had my own apartment. My best friend had died and he weaseled his way into me and living with me again.
In New York City?
Unfortunate. in Denver. And then
in Denver,
when I got this transfer, I was like, I'm going. Sorry. And he begged me to come with me. And so I said yes. And so he came to. Anyway, so not good. We were there a month right before I met Brandon, and there was a new girl. And so I was like, oh my God.
Oh,
and so met Brandon, and it was like this light. I don't know. Anyway.
And he does have a smile where there is like a light behind him when he smiles.
No.
The little angels is coming in.
Well, the funny thing is, so we planned to meet, and we met in Columbus Circle. And I remember waiting, and I looked a hot ass mess. I had like long hair.
Yes.
Like, I was like in trashy clothes. I was like, it's New York City, and I'm artsy. and anyway, he walked out of the subway, and of course I recognized him from his picture. He did not have a recent picture up.
Oh.
And he started walking towards me, and so I was like, oh my God.
I gotta fix my hair real
quick. I remember the moment being like, oh my God. Oh my God. And like, even like the way he walked, everything was just super attractive. And it could have been many things that like led to that, because I was like, whatever. But he's an attractive man. And anyway, so we exchanged some awkward, like, hi, Kevin, I'm Brandon.
Not a hug.
Yeah, like we're both gay. The funny thing is that he was considering it a date, where I was always no.
You're just like, I'm hanging out with my friend.
Yeah, but he was super hot, and oh my God. And so anyway, we went and had dinner. I got nervous and spilled wine all over myself. It was a fucking mess.
I love it.
And then we ended up at this bar in Chelsea called Vinyl, which is not there anymore. And drank too many margaritas, got fucking drunk. We're shut down the restaurant. We're making out in the corner. It was disgusting. And he's like, come home with me. And I'm like, oh, I just met you. And so I put him on the train, and he left, and I left. And I was also, my ex was still living. Yeah. And so I didn't want to like really cross that line. I did. But, okay. Anyway, so the original question was how'd
you know it was Brandon?
So
you kept thinking about him, I'm assuming, after.
Yeah, I absolutely. And when you're like 14 and you have your first crush, and you're like, and then you get hurt, and you're like, my life. So I felt like that. It was like, I just had this strong desire. I was so drawn to his energy. Brandon is such a pure, he can be such a bitch, but he's such a pure soul. So he loves completely. And I attribute that to his mom and dad. And his family in general, because he has such a wonderful family, and they loved him authentically, right? With they just loved him authentically, and that's not what I came from. So I was very drawn to that. And he was attractive, and like he had the nicest butt, like he was just really
totally
attractive.
Get it.
And so anyway, but I think his soul really drew me in. Now I did not know that he was the one for a while. And his butt. I didn't know he was the right one for a little while. So unfortunately, he was not out yet. So we had a secret relationship for, 9 months, I think. And then when he told his family, it was rough.
Hard at first, yeah.
Yeah. And then we didn't get along with his family they hated me for a while.
They hated the thought of you, not you in general.
I don't know.
But I'm saying they love you now.
Oh, absolutely. They're amazing people. And literally, like his mother, I feel like is my mom.
Yeah,
like,
and when they gave over that vision of what they thought Brandon's life should be and let him live his own, and they're like, wait, we do love Kevin.
But his dad especially, who, they grew up in a very different, very white, conservative town in Connecticut. And so even the thought of like gay men for his dad specifically was not, it just was not. Right. And so he took a little while. Like I remember sometimes it was really awkward to hug him. Like I didn't really touch him. He kind of stayed away from me for a little while. Not conscious. I just think he did. And he's such an amazing man. He's literally the older version of Brandon. And I love the shit out of his dad. Like he's just such a good man too. And very much like Brandon, which is interesting. But anyway, Brandon proposed to me, and we actually waited for a minute because I was like, I need to be sure, because we weren't over the hump with his family yet. And it was more important to me that relationship be fixed than for us to get married yet. Right. And so that's what we did. We worked on that. And ultimately we ended up in Florida to repair that even more and to be close to his family, because I felt like we owed it to give it a shot. So, because really I did not want to live in Florida. And I'm so glad that we do now
I
because
do
obviously I got to meet
too.
you.
Yeah, it's me. It's just really about me at the end of the day of the love
Katie
story.
Ray. But anyway, so once I knew that he was the one because of how much I was willing to give.
Sacrificing the moving and the making sure his family was on board.
His family alone, because my past Kevin would have been like, bye, choose me or
we don't
them,
care
bye.
about that. It's just
Yeah,
with me
and
now.
it wasn't even an option. That choice was not an option. And based on that, that's how I knew. Because I was
respected
willing.
each other.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh, I love that story. Oh, and that also gives hope to gay men and women who don't feel they can come out because their family, like it might be hard in the beginning, but know that you work on it, just like any relationship.
I think a lot of people's reservations and hesitations are based on themselves, right? You don't know how people are going to react. There are some people who know, right? Like if you're Confederate flag loving conservative
America
father,
great again hat.
that might
I'm pretty sure I know how you're
gonna
gonna
exactly, like you're gonna hate me. Bye. But like in most cases, you know, you don't really know. So your reservation is really you. So you got to accept and love yourself before somebody else can do it too. So like that's the biggest, you know, and I think Brandon learned that too because his family was that. But they had a period that were like, oh, okay.
And you were 17 when you came out, but Brandon was how old? 25?
24.
4?
Yeah.
Wow. And 17, who was the first person you came out to?
The friend that I was talking about earlier. The one that's going through some troubles right now. Yeah. So she was, at Starbucks, 17.
But you knew at a young age, but you finally were able to.
I didn't want to be gay.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
Because of everything you were indoctrinated. I mean, you were in
and I literally had that foster dad, you know,
I was gonna say.
And at this point, you know, maybe I've gotten so dramatic about it that I've like created whatever in my mind. But I do remember standing in his like workroom in the basement, and I swear to God, maybe I can ask my old foster brother because I think he was in the room too, who I still talk to. But he threatened like cutting off our dicks. Like it was like that intense. And
I'm pretty sure you're right. I feel like you wouldn't make that up.
I feel like that too, but it's been so long.
Yeah, I know.
But I felt so bad. And the funny thing is too, so I had that. And then when I was 13, I started looking up gay porn because
it's there and it's available.
And my adopted dad caught me. And then my adopted mom, you know, and I, you know, at the time she was in a different, I don't know,
place.
Whatever. But she was like, she pulled me in front of, so she called me out onto the back patio with my adopted dad standing there, who's, you know, I'm very close with him now, was not for a long time, but now he wants to be my dad, but we're friends. Anyway, so then her parents were there. So
your adopted grandparents kind of?
Calls me onto the back deck and called me out and was
four
like,
adults
that's
and you.
disgusting. Yeah. And I literally remember her looking at me like, that is disgusting. And I was like, I do not want to be that. Like, what's wrong with me? So I spent all of high school not wanting to do that. So I like dated a lot of girls and I tried to like get myself to be more masculine. Make yourself
straight.
And
you made yourself straight.
Totally. And there were many things that she would, you know, like, why do you walk that way? Or, you know, which we've talked about earlier. Because I have this other podcast that I'm doing. Like, don't scream like a girl, right? Like, it was all this stuff that it was just like, fuck, I'm so feminine, you know?
Yeah.
And I can't be. I shouldn't be.
Oh, it's so wrong. It's so wrong.
Yeah. And you know, part of it was still not gone because, you know, I'd walk down the hall and somebody would be like, faggot, you know, and I was like, oh, but it was when I was 17 and I was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And I remember somebody being like, whoa, what are you, gay? And I was like, yup. And they literally went, oh. Okay. And then I came out. So it was
and
just
you're
like,
oh, is that how and you expected someone to be like,
I could have done this my freshman year.
And you're like, what? Is that all you're going to say now?
Right? So,
what are you
know.
gay?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're welcome.
And you're welcome.
Yeah.
A little bit of love.
So, but yeah, I didn't want to be gay for a long time. But I, you know, at that point, I started to just really focus on like, who is Kevin? And I didn't want to not be who I was. And so, you know, and maybe there was like a bitch light that came on inside of me. And I was just like, fuck you. Yep. and I just stuck with it, you know. Whatever. I put a rainbow sticker on the back of my car.
And to be honest, even if you were you say like you go back and I've said mean things and I've done that, but really it was because you had to hold back for so many years being yourself. So it might have came out as like, aggressive at first, and you took a step back and you're like, oh, wait, sorry for that one time. But I get that.
Yeah.
I get it. It's like our defense mechanism is
Totally.
like aggression. But I love that.
Yeah.
That you got that reaction and then you're like, yeah, wow, that felt good. Okay, I'm going to keep walking now. I'm going to class.
I know. Well, I went through a period of like, I've accepted things that I have done, because I've had relationships go sour.
Oh, yeah.
But I've always found it very interesting when you're like, man, I totally reacted that way. Sorry about that. But I reacted that way because you reacted this way.
Yeah.
I've always found it interesting that, there's so many people that are immediately like, well, you did this to me. And they don't think about what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I recently not recently, actually, it's been a couple of years now. So the reason I didn't hang out with Brandon in Orlando when I was doing my internship was because I started dating a girl. I dated her for a month. We went on 2 dates. We made out twice. And anyway, I was out before that, right? And so she really liked me, and I was like, oh, I think that you're super fun too. She's like, we should date. And I was like, okay. And I was a little confused, right? Because my ex was cheating me with a lot of girls. And so I was like, well, maybe I could not, whatever.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was out already, and I was like, well, I'm gay. And she was like, well, whatever. So we dated, and again, 2 dates. And I was like, I'm sorry.
You dated.
I'm very gay.
You're like, I am so gay.
It's not going to happen. And but I did really like her. She was a beautiful girl or woman, and she was just super fun. And anyway, stopped it, whatever, tried to be friends. And she actually moved to New York City and lived with Brandon and I and his sister. And I'm not sure what her intention was originally, but I was out with Brandon, and she was back at home telling all of her girlfriends that she didn't know I was gay, and that I ruined her life, and that I was the first love of her life, and I treated whatever.
But you said you were gay.
Yeah. Now, I should have been like, no, I'm not dating you because I'm 100% gay. But again,
you took a step back and was like, I just should not have dated you.
Correct. Like that was my downfall, and there were a couple of moments where like, oh, we got drunk and made out. Oops.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have done that. So there was a little part of, she was so into me, and I let it on a little with certain moments, and that was wrong. However, so tried to keep that friendship. We invited her to our wedding, and 2 days before our wedding, she says, I'm not coming to your wedding. I won't know anybody there. I'm like, we paid $100 for your fucking boy. And I'm like, and that was the statement, like, not going to celebrate you because I don't know anybody. And it was just like, fine, great. And anyway, I stopped talking to her for a little bit, right? Because it was hurtful. Yeah. Anyway, we tried to get in contact again, and we got on a call, I think 2 years ago, just telling me about her life and whatever. And I was like, well, I'd love to move forward, like, miss you as a friend. And I was like, but I would like to talk about, like, why I disappeared for a hot minute. And she's like, yeah, okay. And then text her a couple times, nothing. And I was like, what's happening? Like, do you want to whatever? And she's like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. It's not good for me in my life, whatever, which is great.
Totally. Yeah.
But really what it was she does not think she did anything wrong. And that's a bummer, right? Yeah. Because
you owned your part.
I did. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. Like, that was not fair of me, but there were different caveats. When I went and saw her in Chicago, her mom was like, leave my daughter alone. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
Right. And I'm like, what did she tell you? But I just was like, okay, it was our light. It's an automatic light.
All the lights turned off, and I was like, all the electricity is turned off.
Anyway, so it's always been interesting to me because you start to question yourself. I'm like, fuck, what else did I do? Or where's the validity?
How
in
bad
there?
was I to this person?
Yeah,
what did I say?
Oh,
what did I? Yeah.
So you start reviewing, your relationship and stuff, and it was like, I feel good about it now because I'm like, no, I did a lot, and I was very transparent. Like, there was never a lie.
You were honest.
Always gay. Like, never said I wasn't. Still gay. Love dicks. Like, not.
Still here. Still gay.
Yeah. So that was like that was the one truth that I know I was consistent through, and I with friends was consistent through. Right? We had mutual friends. The only bummer is that she really turned everybody against me. So like my Disney crew is no longer that crew. Yeah.
I'll be your Disney crew.
No, whatever.
Do we dress up in like Disney outfits?
Woo.
Or we do the Mickey Mouse Club?
Well, it was funny too. I wish. But we're supposed to have a reunion, and I used to set up every party. I did everything.
Yeah.
I was the one, and no, none.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I know. So such a bummer,
Bummer,
Yeah,
but-
and all these people knew. They were all a part of it, And I literally, one of them I was very, very close to, but now she's very close to this other girl. Loved this girl, and I met her first.
Mhm.
And anyway, I remember going to her and saying, "Hey, she wants to date. Like, I'm gay. Like," and she was like, "Try it. Why
Oh,
not?"
and now she's
And
on
now
her
she's against me.
That's not
And
cool.
I'm like, what a bummer.
Nobody's honest.
So anyway, but I've always found it very interesting, those types of things. So I always want to go to situations, be like, this is what I did wrong.
Yes.
Really sorry. Let's work that out.
But you did, and the other person didn't reciprocate.
No,
it's
at
just
all.
the way life is.
And it was
And
interesting.
It's disappointing.
Totally. So especially when they beg you to be friends again.
I know.
And then you're like, all right,
They
let's
lived with you.
figure it out. And you're
Like,
like,
hello. Yeah, you're like,
Anyway.
damn it again. I was
really?
Damn it.
You asked me.
I did it again.
Yeah, so-
So let's go over the projects you're working on and the social media for it. So,
Sure.
okay. Go for it.
Okay, so our main biz is BKN Creative. So you can find us on Instagram at BKN Creative. So that's B for boy, K for Kevin, N for Nancy.
Good old Nance.
BKN at BKN Creative at BKN Creative, and then you can visit our website at www.bkncreative.com. We also have BKN Creative headshots, which are it's a gallery of the headshots that we've taken. And then I can be found at Kevin Tydlaska on Instagram. So that's at Kevin and then spelled Tydlaska. And I actually have a pretty fun new project coming up, which we talked about because you're going to be on my podcast. But I'm launching my new podcast with just me, and it's called Scream Like a Girl. And it's all about women, and it's all about interviewing powerful and motivating and inspirational women to kind of tell their stories and own who they are and tell about why it's powerful to be a woman. So that's exciting.
Getting hype about that.
Yeah.
Love it.
So that'll be launching pretty soon. So, follow my social media to see that because it's not set up yet. But anyway, that's pretty much.
What is one thing you want our listeners to remember about Kevin?
Oh my God, what a weird question.
I love it.
Like a good
Like when
question.
they're like, I love the Kevin episode because of this.
Oh my God.
I love the BU part.
BU part.
When you said, be yourself, like, be
I
you.
guess, yeah, BU. It's not like a
I mean, not like
like a Melania thing, isn't that like Oh no, that one's be best. Ugh, whatever.
be best.
Be best. Tell your husband that. Anyway.
Be best.
Be best, y'all.
No, not
Is that the best she could have come up with? Be best.
I mean, in her
Okay.
head, yes. In her head at that moment,
Ew.
yes.
Yeah, she's like a
Kevin won't ruin it right now. He's going to make it. He's going to be his best.
And everyone's going to be like, I remember the Kevin episode. He was a bitch. I would say I always love to do, obviously you were on another podcast of ours, which we have a group of people that do it called So Basic Podcast. And I always love to end something on like a motivational type of quote. And so, I would say here, if I was remembered by anything, is that every human being, has the ability to shape their life, regardless of any type of influence that it's had, right? Whether you've lost a limb, whether you have a disability, whether you are gay, black, white, whatever, you still have the opportunity to be you in any situation. And you have complete control, like you get to decide how you react to stuff. You don't decide what happens to you all the time, but you have the opportunity to decide how you react, right? And I think that is such a powerful thing to know and accept in your life, to move forward knowing that I have a choice right now, and this is how I can react, and this is how I can handle this and move forward. And you get to decide, and that's such powerful. That there's so much power in that, and I think that's the biggest takeaway is that like live your authentic self, always be you, and react the right way that feels authentic to you.
That is so much better than be best. Just
Oh my God.
so nailed it.
Nailed it.
Thank you for listening, Kevin. Thank you for being here. I adore you. At Instagram, not a great whisperer.
Not a great whisperer.
Not a great whisperer. And then at the real K Ray, REY.
The real K Ray.
And katieray.com.
Yes.
But thank you again. Thank you for listening because this is the first episode.
It's the first
I love
episode.
It. And this is how we're launching. So smooches to the fans and the listeners. Can't wait.
Yay.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me as number one. You want to say bye?
Bye.